Hello, welcome back into the studio. I wanted to take a few minutes and show you my recent discovery. So I don't know if you're aware, many people are doing this technique using their gel plate, stencils, and alcohol inks. That is really awesome. And I kind of played on that idea, but with watercolors and a stencil. No gel plate, but you could do it with a gel plate. I think you could do it with a gel plate. I haven't tried it yet, so that's my next venture, is to give that a go. But the surprising thing is I'm going to be using alcohol. So I got my liquid watercolors, my Ken Oliver liquid watercolors, a tray for each color. I have my Joggles 3x5 watercolor index cards, which I love, and my brand new, never been used yet, Elizabeth St. Hilaire Peas in a Pod stencil that I've been dying to get into. It's actually, get that out. So I'm gonna work on this card. And the first thing you want to do is get your stencil laid down and taped. So I tape this down so I get the maximum closeness to my index card, because you do need to let this dry. So get this down. Oh, and then I have like just a little round brush. That, I just put that right on the card. Don't want that. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do, so I get that all as close and tight as I can, is I'm gonna put some of the watercolor in each thing. So I think I'm gonna do it in this order, and I'm gonna just do one color at a time. So I do not get my paper wet first. I leave it dry. I did try it, wetting it first, and it didn't come out as awesome. So these are like concentrated, so they have lots of color to them. I do add just a quick little spray from my Wild Studio water mister into this and just add it. And then I just roll it on. And I don't mind where it's hit the stencil. It really is easy to wash off, unlike when you use your alcohol inks and your stencils are stained. Okay. Maybe I went a little bit crazy on the quantity. All right, then you want to clean your brush off. And we're gonna go into our next color, which is, so that was burnt orange. This is Alzarian Crimson. And on this one, I'm gonna try not to get so much. A little water. Okay. And then I'm gonna add that in, and I'm just gonna come in a little bit so I get some mixing of my color. Hey, I did better that time. All right, and I'm gonna just kind of give it a little in certain areas so we can get some crossover in that color. You know, some Okay, that's that. Cleaning my brush in between. And then we're gonna go in with some turquoise. If I can get it open. We don't need much here. And I'm not going to add any water with this. I'm going to just leave it the intense color that it is. And I am going to do a little mixing here on the edge. Maybe a little going on. Not too much on that. Okay, so now the next step is the hard part. You gotta walk away and let this hot mess dry completely. So I'm gonna walk away from it, and when it's dry, I'll be back. And it's dry. Ooh, look at that tape. So we're gonna pull up the stencil, if you haven't figured that out already, and see what we've got. Now when I tested this out and then worked on a project with it, sometimes it stuck a little bit to the paper underneath. And that one didn't very much at all. Oops, there's still a little bit on the back side. That's a little wet still. All right, so there we go. Look at that, isn't that cool? But this is the fun stuff. Now, when I did it before, I was using watercolor tags. So now we're gonna spray it with the isopropyl alcohol, and it's gonna curl up, but you're not gonna see any of the watercolor move. And you wanna really give it a good spritz. And it curls up and then it goes back down. And you're gonna let that dry completely. Now, you wanna make sure that your watercolor is dried, because if you spray isopropyl alcohol on watercolor that is wet, here, and I'll show you, it kind of gets like goopy. So let me just spread that out a little bit. Okay, so when you get this with alcohol on it, it's gonna like bead up and get kind of goopy. It does weird things to watercolor. Look at it move all on its own. It's interesting. So it gets this kind of goopiness. It like separates. I don't know how to explain it other than goopy. It's just weird how it behaves with alcohol. It like repels it or something. I'm not quite sure. But what you're gonna find when this dries is, oh, I'm getting all this color everywhere. That's cool. What you're gonna find is that this will bleed less. So we're gonna let it dry completely, and then we'll go in with, and I'll show you what I mean by bleeds less. When you reapply water to it, it's gonna bleed less. So we're gonna let that dry completely, and then we'll be right back. All right, so now this is completely dried. And now I think that it wasn't fully dried because I got some bleeding when I added the alcohol down in here. But mostly that was down in this corner. But I'm gonna take my brush and a little bit of water on it, and watch this. There's hardly any, I mean, you have to look really closely to see the bleeding. There's hardly any bleeding happening. And with watercolors, that's like really unheard of. So my thought with doing this with a jelly plate was to do exactly what we did here. Let it dry completely, and then add fluid or even gel medium to the plate to pull it up, or even a clear gesso maybe to it to pull it up after we let it completely dry. I haven't tried it yet, but that's the next thing I'm gonna do, is give it a try, and then if whatever I find out, I will let you know. But then look at the back of this. Is that awesome? Let's see if that bleeds. No bleed there. Did it bleed on the front? Nope. No bleed on the front. So that's what I discovered, the chemical properties somewhere between the liquid watercolor and isopropyl alcohol. Again, make sure your watercolor is completely dry before you apply the isopropyl alcohol, or you will not have this same kind of reaction. What's going to happen is the watercolor beads up into it. So go out and play with that, and let me know if what you've created using this technique. I guess we could call it the, I don't know, watercolor and alcohol technique. I don't know. But have fun.